Pokémon Emerald is still full of secrets waiting to be discovered. Welcome back to this section where we go over the biggest secrets still hidden in the shadows of each game in the franchise. Today it's the turn of Emerald, the Jewel of Hope.
There you are again, you horrible little bug.
Sorry, Lucy. Not long ago, we made a retrospective video about the Battle Frontier, but its most sinister and mysterious place, the Battle Pike, still holds a secret I avoided mentioning. One so powerful it can break the magic of even a challenge as colossal as the Frontier. So maybe it was better to leave it hidden. Teaching any move to any Pokémon. At the time, we already talked about how in the Battle Pike you have to choose between 3 paths. But today, we're interested in one of them, the Double Battles path. Have you ever wondered what happens if you enter it with only one Pokémon? Well, on paper, this is impossible, because if 2 of your team members faint and only 1 is left standing, the game simply won't take you to that room. But there's a loophole. What lies behind the 3 paths is determined once you step into the main hall. So if you make your Pokémon faint right there, it's possible that a double battle room has already been generated. And even though there aren't any trainers there to knock out our Pokémon, there is another way to do it. Poison. And if that happens and you make 2 of your Pokémon faint after a double battle room has already been generated, you'll be able to enter with only 1 Pokémon left standing, which the game really doesn't like at all. Since it's impossible to send out a Pokémon in the second slot, the game, in a desperate attempt not to crash, creates a ghost clone of the first one in that spot. But once the battle is over and you leave the challenge, that's when you realize that playing with fire has its consequences, because your team will be glitched with one of your Pokémon transformed into that ghost clone that was created, with all 4 of its moves replaced by Sketch. Getting poisoned here isn't exactly hard to do, so I'm sure a lot of people stumble upon this trick without even looking for it. I'm getting dizzy. And trying to catch Feebas doesn't help with that dizziness. The most coveted prize in Hoenn, its most elusive Pokémon, which, as you probably know, hides in just 6 fishing tiles on Route 119. Random tiles. That means, to catch it, you have to comb the entire area, fishing until you find one of those spots where Feebas appears. And to make it all even crueler, it doesn't even have a 100% encounter rate on those tiles, just 50%. So even if you're on the right spot, it's very likely to show up, but you could be on the correct tile and just get unlucky, missing it and thinking it's not there. Evolving it is also quite a challenge. Nowadays it's all really easy since you know exactly which Pokeblocks it needs, which berries to use and where to find them. But if you're someone playing blindly back in the day, good luck trying to figure out that to evolve this thing, you had to make it beautiful. To top it all off, almost as if it were a joke, those spots are determined by the trend in Dewford Town. But the connection between the 2 is random and changes every time you change the phrase. I mean, I would understand this mechanic if using certain specific words gave you specific spots where Feebas appears. But if everything is random, and this doesn't help you at all, why did they make it so complicated? What sense does it make in the first place for the trendy phrase in one town to affect some fish on the other side of the region? Are the fishermen on this route shouting those words and scaring off the Feebas or something like that? But wait, it actually gets even worse. Because did you know that on this route, there are 10 spots where you can't fish, but Feebas can still appear there, which means that if you're really unlucky, it's possible for Feebas to show up in 8 of those spots, and you could search the whole area without ever finding it. Specifically, one of those tiles has a bug that I would call unsettling. It turns out that Feebas can appear in this unfishable corner right here. And if that happens, For some very strange reason, it will always show up in the water tiles under this bridge. Now, get ready to have your mind blown. Turns out that in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they changed this whole mechanic to make it much easier, and Feebas appears with a 100% rate where the bridge casts its shadow, just like in that glitch. There's no way that's a coincidence. Are they actually referencing the bug? Maybe it's kind of like an apology for that incident. Because, let's be honest, if catching this creature is hard, just imagine what it must have been like to program all of this. Alright, now let's move on to nicer and more pleasant things, please. One feature that has been with us since the series began is the trainer card, which collects basic information about our adventure and is, generally speaking, the most overlooked part of the menu. Except in some games where it was given some charming touches, like in the 4th generation when you could clean your badges with a stylus as they gathered dust, or in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green where you could take a photo of your team at the photo booth in the casino included there. And the truth is, this part of the menu is the most forgotten and the least selected by players, but at the same time, it encapsulates the greatest challenge in the game. The Golden Card, the coveted mark of mastery that shows you've accomplished the game's greatest feats, a symbol that you've conquered that region. But the Golden Trainer Card is something that only a few ever achieve. So few, in fact, that not many people even know there actually is an incredible reward for achieving it. Starting in Pokemon Emerald, when you earn a golden card and go to heal your Pokemon at the Pokemon Center as usual, something changes. The nurse praises the beautiful shine coming from your bag, recognizes your talent as if after healing the wounded Pokemon of hundreds, thousands of trainers, she sensed something different about you. Like a spectator who's been following your journey from the very beginning, and that's why she's the only one who can truly understand the magnitude of what you just accomplished. And yes, starting from Pokemon Emerald, when you complete all the achievements the game offers, the dialogue of the nurse at the Pokemon Center changes. And instead of giving you her usual lines and asking if you want to heal your Pokemon, she acknowledges you as you walk in, addresses you by name, and asks you directly if you want the usual, significantly cutting down the time it takes to heal, as if she admires you but knows you're a busy star. But this isn't the only hidden cutscene at the heart of this game. Far from the calm of the Pokémon Center, at the foot of Mount Chimney, some hikers talk about a rumor, a mysterious figure that can sometimes be seen climbing the gorge. Because as many of you know, when you go up Mount Chimney by cable car, sometimes, 1 out of every 64 times, you can spot a hiker, a charming detail that honestly surprises me with how unlikely it is. I could swear I saw him more often than that in that cutscene, although maybe that's just a side effect of having played through this game dozens of times as a kid. But did you know that someone else appears in that cutscene? Even though they're not as well known, maybe because they blend in better with the environment due to the color of their clothes, some campers, a boy or a girl, can also appear, but I wasn't talking about them. It turns out that also, 1 out of every 64 times, a Zigzagoon can appear climbing the mountain, which makes all of us at first wonder the same thing. If the appearance of that Zigzagoon is supposed to have the same probability as the hiker, how is it possible that we all knew about the latter, while nobody saw the Badger Pokemon show up when we were kids? Not even those of us who played that cartridge over and over again. And the answer is the same as always when it comes to Pokemon. A bug. Programming. A bug in the game's code means that, even though that possibility is built into the game, Zigzagoon can never actually appear. But there it is, immortalized in the code. But it doesn't end there. There's yet another secret climber in the gorge. Many of you experienced the release of Pokemon Emerald will fondly remember some of the subtle changes this game had compared to Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Details that weren't as spectacular or flashy as Rayquaza or the Battle Frontier, but that had their own charm and brought a breath of fresh air to this new adventure through Hoenn. Some of these changes happened right at the beginning of the adventure, like how the Pokemon helping us move are no longer Machokes from a moving company, but instead our Father Norman's Vigoroth, or that the Pokemon attacking Professor Birch is no longer a Poochyena but a Zigzagoon. And that same pattern repeats itself with the appearance of the cable car. where in Ruby and Sapphire the sprite of a Poochyena is programmed instead of the Zigzagoon from Emerald, remaining hidden in the code due to the same programming error that, for some strange reason, they didn't fix from one game to the next. Why did they go to the trouble of changing the sprites, but didn't fix the programming bug so it could actually be seen? It's a mystery. But I want to go back to Zigzagoon, a Pokemon that's been with us from the very beginning as a tutorial for battles, a loyal companion who offers a lot in these games, and a Pokemon that holds a big secret to wrap up this video. This little guy has a trick up his sleeve that makes him one of the most valuable allies during many people's adventures. With its pickup ability, it has a chance to find items after every battle, passively, and even without taking part in the fight. An incredible help that, as most of you know, has made it perhaps the most iconic early route regional Pokemon of all, earning an everlasting place in the hearts of many trainers, especially in the original Ruby and Sapphire, where these items didn't even scale with the Pokemon's level, letting them pick up the most valuable treasures right from the very start. But even though in Pokemon Emerald they changed how the mechanic works so that the quality of the item Zigzagoon picks up would now gradually improve as it leveled up, making the ability less overpowered, since to fully take advantage of it you had to raise this Pokemon to level 100. Something epic that further elevates the legend of Zigzagoon happens in Emerald. It turns out that in the final and greatest challenge this cartridge has to offer, the Great Battle Pyramid, the items that Zigzagoon or Lanoon pick up with their ability change. And we're not talking about just any items, but spectacular ones specifically for that building, including healing items that are extremely scarce in that challenge, fluffy tails to escape from the terrifying wild Pokemon that lurk with a much tougher escape formula for the player, held items to give your own Pokemon more power. Even the legendary Sacred Ash, an ancient item that revives and fully heals all the Pokemon in your team. And never, under any circumstances, has this item been as useful as it is in that exact place and moment. It seems that since it's the first Pokemon we encounter, they wanted to pay tribute to Zigzagoon in this final challenge so it could truly shine. Do you remember that feeling of excitement when your Pokemon came back on the early routes of the old Ruby and Sapphire games with a rare candy? Well, it seems that this magical moment, when it shows up with a Sacred Ash to heal all your Pokemon at the summit right before the final battle against the Pyramid King, is a tribute to those feelings. The sun sets, and with it, an indescribable feeling washes over you. Because sometimes, what you need most isn't a strong and impressive ally, but a friend who by your side from the very beginning teaches you to appreciate the little things.